One Dog and His Boy, Chapter 16, Sprocket Gets a Call. The stable hand had lost very little time. As soon as the horses were bedded down for the night, he made his call. Curzon, of course, was no longer in his office. He often did not return after a long lunch, and Fiona never stayed once he had gone. So it was in Sprocket's little cubbyhole that the phone rang, and he seized it eagerly. Here, Milton Sprocket speaking. He listened, getting more and more excited, trying to take notes with one hand. I'm pretty sure it's him, the voice at the other end was saying. Looks just like the photo. You did say 20,000 pounds. No funny business? Yes, said Sprocket eagerly. Now, just tell me exactly where you are. Give me your coordinates. But the stable hand had not heard of coordinates. Don't know what they are, mate. We're in Todcaster with Henry's Circus, and you better get up here quickly because we'll be on the move again soon. When he put the receiver down, Sprocket was in a state of feverish agitation. It was clear he had to act straight away and not wait for Curzon's instructions. What's more, it seemed that the boy had not been kidnapped, as everyone thought, but had run away. Children did not run away to join the circus, Sprocket knew, and that meant he would not want to be recaptured and taken home. And this, in turn, meant some serious disguises while the boy was being stalked and cornered and brought back. The van would have to be disguised too. Probably best to put on the greengrocer poem. They'd like the idea of fresh vegetables up in the north. Sprocket hurried to the cabinet and opened the top drawer. He was a fair man and tried hard not to have any favorites among his mustaches, but there was one that he did love particularly. It was a rich nut-brown color and wonderfully bushy, and it settled against his upper lip like the softest fur. He put it on and immediately felt ready for a great adventure. Then he packed up a couple of wigs, an ear trumpet, and some pimples and boils, but not the scars. You couldn't have everything. At the last minute, he added the bottle of blood, but left the one labeled saliva. There would be places up there where one could spit if necessary. Running backward and forward, Sprocket loaded the van, putting in the new sat-nav, the infrared heat-sensing device, the binoculars with night vision. The little packet containing Hal's toothbrush and his handkerchiefs went in the secret compartment behind the driving seat. And of course he had a case ready packed with pajamas and a change of underclothes. Sprocket's mother had always been careful to see that her son understood the importance of being fresh and clean, not just on top, but all the way through. He was removing the board that said, "Have you lost it or misplaced it? In a jiffy we will trace it," and sliding in the one that said, "When your appetite's on edge, we will bring you fruit and veg," when he remembered that he had not left a message for Curzon. So he went back into the cubbyhole and sent a coded message from his computer to Curzon's computer upstairs, telling him where he had gone. Then he eased the van out of the garage and set off for the highway. As he passed a row of shops, he saw a big notice in one of the windows in which a light still burned. "Easy Pets," it said, "pedigree dogs to rent." Sprocket drove on without a second glance. He was not fond of dogs. The light should not have been burning at Easy Pets so late. Kaylee had been due home an hour ago. She still had the flu and should have been in bed. But one of the dogs, the Mastiff, who had eaten her mistress's finger by mistake, was running a temperature. Her nose was dry and she was off her food, and Kaylee sat with her, wondering whether to call out the vet so late. The Carkers never came to the dogs after hours. She was feeling wretched. She went on missing the dogs in room A more than she would have thought possible, and she was terribly worried about Pippa. The police had been back asking a lot more questions, and she felt that it was only a matter of time before they found out that it was Pippa who had been in the building on Sunday night. She was putting on her coat when Queen Tilly started up again. The Mexican hairless was disgusted. She was a dog who, in a way, was born disgusted. But since her roommates had disappeared, life at Easy Pets had become impossible. The 5 dogs who had replaced Otto and Francine and the others were simply not fit to associate with a Mexican hairless who had belonged to an heiress and eaten off silver plates. There was an Airedale who suffered from hairballs, a Dachshund who drooled, and some others that it was better not to think about. So she twitched and screeched and yelped and grumbled, till Kaylee came to her in the compound and put another cushion in her padded sleeping basket and gave her a drink of milk. When she got home at last, Kaylee was so very exhausted she could hardly put one foot in front of the other. But when one of the twins was stuck with his homework and needed help, and grandfather had to be wheeled out to the corner store, nothing could convince him that he wasn't going to buy back the family farm with his winning lottery ticket. Mrs. O'Brien was still out working late for Mrs. Naryan. For a moment, Kaylee wondered whether to go and fetch her. The Naryans were always so friendly and welcoming, and the warm house with its wonderful silks and perfumes seemed very tempting on this miserable night. Once, when it was raining badly, Mrs. Naryan had sent her mother home in her husband's silver Rolls Royce, a car so silent and so beautiful that it was hard to believe that it was just an ordinary machine and not something out of a dream. But she was too tired to go anywhere. When she had finished her chores, Kaylee picked up the phone, meaning to ring Pippa. She had an emergency number for the school camp, and perhaps it was best to warn her. But then she thought better of it. It seemed cruel to spoil Pippa's holiday, and she put the phone down again and climbed wearily into her bed and tried to sleep. At MMM, the phone rang and rang and rang again, as Donald tried desperately to get news of his son, while upstairs, Albina, wearing no makeup for the first time in her adult life, wept over the beige carpet that had arrived that afternoon to replace the blue one in Hal's room.